Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Rob Evans 365. Today is day 413, and today I wanted to have a conversation with you about what would you do differently. Like, if you had your life to live over again, what do you think you would do differently? I was out for a walk and reflecting on, what would I do? What would I do differently? I mean, I don't have any regrets as such. I mean, I think every experience that we have in life is something that teaches us something. In a game, there's winners and there's learning. There's not losers, there's learning. And I like the thought of that, because you can always learn. And if you think about where you've had the biggest perhaps shifts in your life, the biggest learnings in your life, I guarantee you they've come out of pain. And so that may have been where you maybe have lost a game, for instance, or you've had some bad series of events happen in your life which have caused the outcome that hasn't been what you wanted. I know that I can certainly relate to that. And maybe just think, okay, well, if I did have to do it all again, knowing the way that my life has turned out now, would I do things differently? And you could say, well, look, let's go back to not the very beginning, but when I chose my career path, which was accounting, knowing what I know now, would I do something different? Well, I think if I hadn't been an accountant, I wouldn't be in the position that I am now. I wouldn't have had the experiences that I have had up to this point. I wouldn't be a great coach like I am now, because I wouldn't have had those experiences. And a part of the reasons why I am a great coach is because of the fact that I was a chartered accountant, and I had senior management positions, and I worked in large corporations and exposed to great business people and some great managers that have enabled me to develop some skills that just do not exist in the industry that I'm working in now. So those opportunities just wouldn't have been there for me. So I think my background gives me a unique advantage over others, because it's different. And my business experience, my accounting experience, has enabled me to think differently and enabled me to, reverse engineer things for my business, which come naturally to me, which won't to other people in the industry. Because maybe they come from a strong sporting background and they just like playing sport and being active and stuff, but they don't have the business nous or the drive to do those things, whereas I'm they're kind of second nature to me now. So I wouldn't have those strengths that I do. But on the other hand, I could say, well, if I did do it all again, I would probably say, and I was, had the choice of picking what I was going to do for a university degree, I would probably say that I would go to, certainly the way it is right now, I don't know what it was like back when I was graduating, but doing like some kind of sports science, nutrition degree at Deakin University would be something that I would have done. Deakin is the world-leading university when it comes to work on obesity, weight loss, nutrition, that kind of thing. So I think to be able to be exposed to doing a course out of there would be amazing. Then, what opportunities would that have led me to? Well, who knows? I mean, back in the 1990, I was able to, get into a graduate program with Coopers and Lybrand to become a chartered accountant, were there opportunities back in the 1990s for sports exercise physiologists and nutritionists and that kind of stuff. I think becoming an exercise physiologist, a nutritionist, a dietitian would have been the approach that I would have taken if I had to do it again now. And then probably also doing some work in the finance area as well. So maybe I did a double degree or something like that, so that I could still get those skills as well. Or maybe it's an MBA or something like that. Not sure, but something along those lines. And who knows where that would have taken me. Maybe I could have been involved in working with some sporting clubs, like some big sporting clubs. Maybe I would have ended up in working in healthcare for a period of time and getting some experience in there. I think ultimately going out and working for myself is probably something that I wouldn't have felt confident to do if I hadn't have done the business stuff. So, you just don't know, do you, how things would have turned out if you just make a different decision. I guess the reality at the time for me was that wasn't an option. There weren't, and actually that'd be interesting to know back in 1990, what were the course options, because I was living in Bendigo. I don't even know how old Deakin Uni was back then, or it's certainly recognised as a world leader in the space of exercise and nutrition now, but was it then? And did they even have the courses that they have now? Because the demand has gone through the roof. If you look at the obesity trends over the last 30 years, they've all just gone upwards, and there's been a greater demand. When I was going into a gym back then, they didn't really have personal trainers at all. They just didn't exist because there wasn't a demand for it, because it was the gym owner that kind of set you up with a program. They had some trainers and stuff that might help you, but it wasn't the norm. It's just the system was different. So things have dramatically changed. So you just don't know what it would have been like back then. I guess it's a bit like accounting now. If you're going to study accounting now, it would be different to how I studied it all those years ago, and the demand for accountants back then was much greater than it is now. It's more analysts that they're looking for now as opposed to an accountant as such. So it's interesting. But I think that's what I would have done. And where would that leave me now? Well, I don't know. I think being a high performer like I am, and that hunger for growth, there's some opportunities that I'm sure would have been present to perhaps go and work at Commonwealth Games, the Olympics, working with some high profile teams, maybe working with the Australian Institute of Sport, working with some high profile athletes and so forth, developing them, nurturing them to be high performers. That's what I enjoy doing now, nurturing people to perform at their best. And I think given the qualifications and the opportunities back then maybe that's something that I could have gone into. There's still an opportunity perhaps to do that. You just never know. Kerry Pothast has been talking about how she just picked up a contract actually with the Australian Institute of Sport, their first client, and this new program they're doing to help support gold medalists to become high performers outside of the sport once they retire from the sport. There are certainly opportunities for her there because she's an Olympic gold medalist herself, so that's a pretty good prerequisite to get in the door with helping develop these other athletes. But this is where relationships come into it. Developing relationships, nurturing relationships, delivering great outcomes for people, and you just never know what can happen. You just don't know. I think this is what's exciting about life, don't you think? Our paths aren't written. I'm walking along a path right now. Now I'm walking along this path because somebody laid it down for me. And I walk this path frequently, and you find that life is very much like that. You get into the habit of walking the same path over and over again in the same shoes, and not even recognizing where you're going and what you're doing. You might enjoy the path. I actually really love this walk, but your life is like that, and you're not making any adjustments to say, actually, do you know what? I need to take a different path here, or whether it's a different path completely or just from time to time to say, I need to take a different path today because I need to look at things from a different perspective. And when you stop and do that, you can realize that things look different, and perhaps you're not living life the way that you had promised yourself that you would. Because trust me, we all want something more. We're all looking for more, whether it's more money, more time with family, greater love, greater experiences, helping more people, greater body, did I say that? Greater level of health, more time on the planet. We're all searching for something else, a higher level of living. And if you keep staying on the same path, you're probably not going to get there. So you've got to challenge yourself. And that's what I've spent the last 12 months doing, really pushing myself outside my comfort zone. Even though not everybody agrees with that, to say that, well, you're not stepping outside your comfort zone. It's like, well, if you stepped inside my skin, you would see how much I've stepped outside my comfort zone over the last 12 months. It's just that if you're not agreeing with it, doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. But the challenge is to keep doing it so that you do live life on your terms. Because life is short. It's so tragically short, really. And at any moment, it could all end. And, I don't want to go to the graveyard and think, oh, well, if only I'd written that book, or if only I'd done this, or if only I'd done that. Our life is a gift, and we need to live it to its fullest, because what else is there? What else is there? So take a look at yourself. What do you reckon you would have done differently? And then once you've done that, think about this. Because in the way that I've set up the question implies that, oh well, that's the path I chose. It's not too late. It's not too late to change. How do I know that? Well, you're listening to this, so you're not too late. Think about whether you agree with the product or not. I don't. But think about Colonel Sanders. So I think he was age 63 when he decided to create his secret recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken, now KFC. And he was 63 years old, but look at the worldwide impact and probably contributing factor to obesity that it's had. Now that he could have gone to the grave with that, but instead he decided that it was going to, launch a dream for him. Walt Disney. I love Walt Disney. Same thing for him. Imagine if he had gone to the grave with his dreams just in his head, and nobody ever being able to live them. Share his experience of his vision. That would be a tragedy. That would be a real tragedy. So don't make up an excuse to settle for where you are right now, because you can achieve greatness. You can achieve greatness. You can achieve those things that you want to achieve. Maybe it's a course that you've always wanted to do in a completely different career that you are currently in, and you are so complacent with where you are, and it just seems too difficult to be able to make those adjustments, to move over to do that other career because of family commitments, your partner, kids, time, financial pressures, all of that kind of stuff. Yes, it's hard, it's challenging, but think about on the other side, and think about you going to your grave having not done what you really wanted to do. To me, that's the biggest tragedy of all. You've got to be able to live life on your terms. You have to pursue your passion, because finding your passion is a big enough challenge in itself. To then have found that passion and not live it to its fullest, to me, is lacking courage to follow your dream. It's going to be hard, but on the other side, it's amazing. And if you want proof of that, just look at what I did and how I changed my life. Completely different career to do what I do now. Went through a lot of pain, changed career, changed relationship, out of a 20-year relationship, a marriage, to do what I do now, and to go through all that pain and that financial hardship through those tough times, and feeling alone, feeling so alone because of the decisions that you've made to put someone else's life in another position because you weren't happy with where things were, and to the impact that you know that you're having on your children's lives, and a bank not wanting to give you a cent, so you had nowhere to live. I mean, the toughest times of my life. But I grew out of every single one of those experiences to become the person that I am now. And I know that I'm not that special, and that you can achieve these things for yourself. You just got to want it and get coaching to get you there faster. That's the other thing that I would do differently. I didn't get a coach till I was in my, I was 40, the late 30s, before I got a coach. Now again, back when I first started out, did coaches really exist? Well, I suppose not in the way that they do now and in the abundance that they do now. But like earlier this week I spoke about, you need to read. I would have been doing a lot more reading. I would have consistently done reading. I would have sought out the people that were alive back then to follow them. And again, it was more difficult then than it is now because the internet didn't exist back then. So it was more difficult. The content that is readily available now just wasn't available then. But books were available and programs were available. You just had to find ways to get your hands on them. And maybe it would have been listening to cassette tapes and things like that. And that would have completely changed my life. So I would have done that differently as well. All right, so do some deep diving in your thinking on this because it's exciting. And you've still got the ability to be able to change the direction of your life from where you are now to where it is that you want to go. You're never too old. Just remember Colonel Sanders, 63. Change the world. All right, that's me out for today. I'll see you tomorrow.